Good afternoon and welcome back to the B14 World Championships sponsored by iSail Whitsundays. I'm Adrian Beswick and I'll be your host for today's racing. As you can see, we've got a beautiful 7 to 10 knots out there on the water, and it's currently blowing southerly and expected to swing to the southeast and hopefully strengthen a bit once we get out on the water. Today's racing is certainly going to be tight. The fleet is very popular and very consistent in this breeze. So the racing is going to be very close. You'll notice that when we get out on the water, in particular, the mark roundings are going to be very entertaining, and there will be lots of action on the turning points. Unfortunately, yesterday's racing was quite a bit different to what we see out there today. It certainly was a lot rougher. We had close to the class's limit, and in addition to that, with the wind blowing from the north, there was a number of waves coming through, which made it impossible for the rescue craft and also the sailors to get out there. And as a result, sailing was abandoned yesterday. Across at past World Championships, such as Hobart in 2009, Hobart's certainly got a reputation for some pretty bad weather, but to date, McCrae's certainly showing that it can happen anywhere around the country. So it'll certainly be interesting to see how the next 3 days pan out, but with the weather looking to remain fine and the breeze to be expected to stay in the south, the fleet's certainly looking forward to some flat and fast racing. All right, so we'll just run you through the course once again. As you can see down the leeward of the course, we've got the start line. So we've got the start boat here on the right, and there'll be a floating mark with a flag on it to the left of the start line. So this is where the fleet begins its racing. Once the start has commenced, after a 5-4-1 go sequence, the fleet then progresses to tack upwind to Mark 1 before rounding through to Mark 2 and then pulling their spinnakers up to carry them down through to the gate, which is Mark 3. At the gate, competitors can choose to either proceed to the left, which is the port side of the course, or the right, which is the starboard side of the course, to proceed up the wind for the second lap. There are two courses which the B14s can sail. Course 2 is 2 laps and course 3 is 3 laps. So once the competitors have done their appropriate number of laps, they then proceed downwind and through the starboard gate on the right hand side across to the finish line, as you can see here, which is to the right side of the course. On the last mark, you'll note that there will be some pretty tight tussles to try and get across the line with good pace and to gain some last minute positions.
Well, we did quite well the other day in terms of boat speed. We had a few incidents around the course which proved things a bit challenging and knocked us down a few places, but we know where we need to improve for today. We've got a little bit more wind, so it should be nice, and a bit less hot, should be good.
Okay, so the last day we sailed was one day ago because it was blown off yesterday, and we got loads of boat speed going very fast to windward. If we make a good start like we did in the first race, we're going well, and we got a 5th out of that. Not brilliant boat handling because we haven't sailed together enough. And then on the second race, we made a bad start, got up to 10th, and then did a terrible last jibe, and we're down to 16th. So we're having an up and down series, but enjoying it. And today, it looks like a little bit more breeze, should be twin racking all the way around, I hope. And sunshine, and the locals tell us that the sea breeze might bend it a bit to the east, but you never know, do you?
Okay, so we've been going fairly well in the races. Our aim originally was just not to come last, so we've managed that so far. So hopefully we'll slowly move up. We're new to the class, first one in Brisbane. So really looking forward to today with sort of 15-knot sea breezes, because it's what we're used to. Yeah.
All right, so we've got the boats are launching, getting ready for the race, and as you can see there, the sand's always a bit of a challenge, pushing your boat down into the water. So at McCrae, the beach is quite flat, and there's 2 sandbars as the competitors enter the water. You'll see just out past the boat that's just launched there, you can see a sandbar. And that sandbar is quite shallow, so the competitors have got to keep their rudder and centreboard up, which are the 2 boards that go into the water, to ensure that they don't hit the bottom and cause any damage to the boats on their way out to the race course. The lawns and facilities at the yacht club are beautiful. As you can see there, you come out through this protective mesh onto the rubber strips, and the competitors can then wheel their boats down the rubber strips straight into the water, which makes it nice and easy for launching. Now we're on board here and getting some shots of famous Leakey and Jerry as they head out to the start line. Leakey and Jerry are some of the competitors who've been in the class for a number of years and really make the class what it is today. As the competitors were heading out, there was definitely some challenging breezes, and the breeze was picking up and dropping down, so that meant that competitors were getting used to it, and as a result there were a few capsizes prior to race 1, as you can see in the distance there. The breezes certainly picked up a lot compared to race 1 and 2, and the competitors will certainly be noting that and adjusting their sails to ensure that they can go as fast as possible in these conditions. Alright, so we're in this first start sequence. As you can see there, the blue Peter is up with the blue and the white flag there, and the competitors are just sort of preparing to get ready for their 1 minute gun to go off before the start proceeds. Here we've got some of the crew from Wallara Sailing Club, Oz 299. And that's the 1 minute signal. The blue Peter has come down, so we're within 1 minute to race start. As you can see along the line, you can see all the boats starting to what we call rack up on the start line in preparation for the impending start. Alright, so we're right nice and close. Looks like the B14's flying upside down. That looks like a good 5 minutes of fame there, Johnny Rotten. And everyone's getting nice and close in there. It'll be interesting to see who takes off. Looking along the line there now. Oh, beautiful. And any second now that flag will come down. The competitors will, there we go, and they're off and racing. So looks like the pin end had a pretty significant bias. There's been a big shift to the left, which meant that anyone that started down at the pin end has been given at least a 100 metre head start straight off, and you can see that in the distance. Those competitors have just tacked straight away and shot off from the line. It's been a clear start, and oh, hang on a second there. Oh no, it looks like we are off and racing. So here we are having a look at some of the initial marks. Oh, it looks like someone's doing a penalty turn there. Looks like they must have hit the mark or something on their start. So at least they're doing their turns, doing the honest thing. Alright, now we're up at the top mark. Here we've got Guy Pencroft rounding in first place, closely followed by GBR 761, which is Chris and Tom from the UK. And in third place we've got Oz 373, which is the father-son Cunningham combination from McCrae. Very used to these types of conditions, and certainly making the most of a very fast boat. Rounding in fourth position. Oh, hang on a second here. Got some of the other guys from the UK rounding very close there. That's Peter and Crispin. And then we've got Andre and Craig from Canberra, and Nick and Dave Grace from McCrae as well in Oz 378. So it's pretty tight and close up in that top end of the fleet, and they'll be in for a great downwind racing each other there, and the pressure is up. And both skipper and crew are on the wing, which means that the boats will be making some good pace going back down the course. Alright, and we've got this second bunch coming up here. It looks like we've got the young guys from Kingston Beach in Tasmania. They've just snuck through there to the top mark, and here's Mark Barnes and Alicia Clifford on board Sevolution. And Oz 369, better known as 1378 for the championships there, rounding just inside of Mark Laneson from McCrae. Tony Blackmore's firing up towards us here, and he's got the nice black sail with the decal on it, and they've had a bit of a slow tack there, but no doubt they'll get moving again. And coming up here we've got Rick and Alice sailing Bang Bang from Woollahra Sailing Club. Alright, and they've this crew here have just had to make a tack. I think this is Sophie and Andy from Woollahra Sailing Club sailing on Oz 778, and they've had to make a quick tack there to get round that first mark and head across to the spreader mark and get moving. Oh, and here's Richie and Lisa sailing in the nude. Richie and Lisa are from Woollahra Sailing Club also, and they were closely followed by Oz 791 there, who's heading up to the top mark there. That's actually Mark Watts sailing on Oz 791 with Chris Bishop. Looks like they're a bit back in the fleet. They'll be looking to make some gains during the race. Here we've got Steve Miller and Lauren Bird sailing Phantom, which is Oz 367. Steve and Lauren sail from Midway Point Yacht Club in Tasmania, and will be looking to get on the map ready for the Nationals, which are scheduled for Tassie next year at Midway Point. This is Alan Graham sailing on 374 with his crew, and the boat's called Toxic. As you can see there, this is GBR2, who's Guy Rains is crewing there. Unfortunately, his brother Carl couldn't make it to the race course today, and as such, he's managed to find himself another skipper. And coming up to the top mark now, we've got Ewan sailing on Oz 156. Ewan's fairly new to the class, but seems to be doing pretty well and has been showing some pretty good boat speed. And he's sailing with his daughter there. Certainly making the most of nice breeze, and both out on the wing, which is nice. Alright, looking down the fleet now, you can see that a lot of boats have headed out to the left-hand side of the course, and they're now making their way back down to the bottom mark, ready for the rounding. And we're on board here with Oz 299, who are about to go around the top mark there and pop their kite for the downwind leg.
We'll let the race committee deal with that, hopefully.
And here's the yellow bone, sailed by Anthony House, Oz 357, and they're just making their way across to the spreader mark and bearing off to go downwind again. Alright, and here we've got GBR 786 and Oz 355 making their way up to the top mark. So something that you'll see that's happening here is that the fleet has spread out a lot, and that's due to the varying wind conditions on the way upwind. So there's been big gains and big losses to be made as the boats have made their first work upwind. So the fleet has split because of that and spread right out, which has caused some of the more traditional sailors who would be up the front of the fleet perhaps to be scattered through the fleet, and so it's quite interesting to see how things play out in these shifty conditions. McCrae locally, it's been demonstrated by this upwind that it's certainly beneficial to keep closer to the shore when making your way upwind, and that's because the wind tends to bend around the land, and so the sailors that have made the most use of that shift to the east of the course have certainly done well. This is mostly driven by what we call lifts and knocks, and it all comes back to basic trigonometry really, and that is ultimately you want to be sailing to the top mark on the shortest course possible. So if the breeze changes direction and it's beneficial for you to tack and make the most of that changed angle, then essentially you'll sail a shorter distance to the top mark and get there first. Alright, so we've got the front fleet making their way back upwind again, and it looks like we've got GBR 761 getting their way through the fleet, and looks like they're rounding in, well, they're going to be rounding in first position, which is quite interesting. And here we go, we're right on that top mark now, and there goes Andre and Craig from Canberra. It looks like they're rounding in second position. They're up with their kite nice and quick there. GBR 761 have got their kite up nice and quick, and oh lucky, Andre nearly had a nice little wine glass there in his red spinnaker. And Guy Bancroft's rounded in third there, followed closely by Mark Barnes, who's come a long way through the fleet to get up to the top of the fleet there. Robbie Hunt's done well on that second upwind, and they're just having a few spinnaker troubles there on board the Oz 372, the hitcher. Oh, look at that, Dave's jumped forward and pop, up goes the kite, and now they'll be able to hot the boat up and get moving and keep up with those front markers. So they've done very well there. And so we're following them downwind now. So you can see that the British combination with the yellow spinnaker there, they're right out on the breeze and moving quickly. And the Hunt boys, who are a slightly heavier weight combination, are certainly keeping up with them and making the most of that extra weight on the boat. Looks like it's been a bit of a slow spinnaker hoist there for a couple of them, and oh, here we go. We're just on the inside of this combination here, which is Oz 793, which is the bonus bone sailed by Guy Bancroft and Lockie Minio. So they're the local McCrae hopefuls, and they'll certainly be looking to do pretty well at this championship and come away with a world championship as a result. They've certainly been sailing well, and it'll be very interesting to see how the championship wraps up after the next 3 days racing. Alright, and coming back into the fleet there, you'll see that the boat with the red and the purple spinnaker have both jibed to head across with the boat with the blue spinnaker there, and that's to follow that breeze down the course and try and make the most out of where the wind's blowing from. And here comes the red spinnaker back again. Oh, and they've gone for a drop, so we're in on the bottom mark there, and there's Chris Bynes and Tom Feigl on GBR 761 sailing back upwind for the third time. Closely followed by Guy Bancroft on bonus bone, and right above him there is Oz 373 as bonework, another one of Guy's past boats. Through the generations, Guy Bancroft certainly had some interesting boat names. Guy came into the class sailing Bugger the Bone, which was the yellow boat, which is now called Yellow Bone. The second boat he's had in the class was Bonework, which was Oz 373, the green boat there, and since that he's had another one for the Bone, one more for the Bone, and the latest one, Bonus Bone. So lots of bones in Guy's family, and everyone certainly enjoys seeing them all in the fleet. Here we've got the young Tassie combination, Dave McCauley and Robbie Hunt sailing on the hitcher, Oz 372. They've rounded nicely there and come out with nice speed, and looks like Rick Plains made some good gains on that last downwind, rounding very closely behind Robbie and Dave, and they'll certainly be looking to gain a couple more spots up that last work. And coming into the mark, we've got Nick Darlow and Dave Grace sailing on Siren, and here's Adrian Beswick and John O'Leby, who've rounded just in front of him on the rocket ship. Dave and Nick have come round with nice speed there, and they're heading upwind with good pace, and will be looking for the shifts that have split the fleet up so massively. And as you can see there, it's quite a fine sight looking back up the course when all the boats are coming down under spinnaker. Looks like we've got Richie and Lisa with their classic pink kite sailing downwind on Oz 380. And here we are at the bottom mark with 770 Harkin. And they've rounded just inside of Tony Blackmore with that distinct black sail on GBR 764. Looks like we've got quite a few boats coming into the bottom mark there for the last time, and it's going to get pretty congested down there. We've got spinnakers blowing left, right and centre, and these guys here, I think that's Mark Watts, they've managed to get the inside line there on 791, and oh, it looks like they've parked it there. It's going to be interesting to see what Richie and Lisa do, and there's another boat inside them. Cromedy Engineering have snuck through. They've done very nicely there, and oh, hang on a second, there's been a collision there at the mark. Everything's getting pretty heated. Looks like Cromedy Engineering have snuck out of there, and oh, there's a boat over. It'll be interesting to see how they recover from that one, and it looks like Watsy's going to have to throw in another tack. They've managed to get tangled up there, and they haven't got round the mark yet, and there's 778 sneaking through and making the most of that rather tight tussle. So looks like we've got Oz 1378 just standing by as they try and get untangled from the other guys, and looks like we've got GBR 2 here upside down. I'm not quite sure what's happened here, but looks like they're in with some strife, and they've got their spinnaker and they're holding that on the bottom of their boat. They're not quite sure what's happening here, but they're definitely having a chat to the camera crew, and hopefully they'll be able to get the boat packed up. Oh, looks like they've got a little hole in the boat there, so it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully they can get that fixed for tomorrow's racing. Alright, and we're back on board there, and that's Adrian Daly and Steve Mitchell sailing on the Bondi tram, and they're making their way back upwind for the final time. And looks like we've got Ron Kane here on Oz 379. They've just rounded the mark for the last time, and are making their way back upwind. As you can see in the distance there on the one of the rescue boats, there's a blue, red and white striped flag, and that's indicating that there's been a change of course on the course, and they'll be looking to find the new mark, which is subsequently been placed to change the direction of the fleet, and that's because the wind has swung so far that they've had to put a new top mark in. Looks like we're on board here with GBR 761, and they're certainly sailing pretty slowly at this point in time. There must be a bit of a lull in the breeze. As you can see, it's very different to the start of the race, which was two people on the wing and hiking. And it looks like they're making their way across to the finish line to be able to take that that win for race 1 of days 2's racing. You'll see there in the distance, GBR 761 have been supported throughout the regatta by a rather large blue coach boat, so it'll be interesting to see what advice the coach has for today. Here's Oz 373, they're cruising along with their spinnaker up there, and they'll be coming back through the line. They've managed to hold their spinnaker and keep the pace up and cross in second position. And in third place, it looks like we've got Oz 375 there, and oh gosh, there's lots of boats making their way down to the bottom mark for the final time, and it'll be very interesting to see who rounds and how they all sort themselves out as they head towards the finish line. And there's Guy Bancroft. He must have just rounded and kept out of it all, but he's come through for about a 4th position there by the looks of it. And this is Oz 280, so Matthew and Sarah Walker, they're making their way back down to head back upwind for the final lap, while some of the other front runners are making their way across to
Constant adjustments.
make the most of a very spread out race and have a good result, which is always nice for those that have done well.
So it crosses the finishing line with the bow spread out. Is that its usual position?
And here's Oz 372. They've got across the line there in 9th position, I think, and Oz 792 straight behind them. Both Tassie crews coming across with speed, so very different to the first place getters who've unfortunately been sneaking across there with one with the crew on the deck. So it's certainly slow going for them. So we've got the next bunch of boats coming down into the bottom mark. As you can see, it's pretty hectic. You've got Richie and Lisa in the nude there, just rounding in front of a number of the other boats there, and it looks like they've all done reasonable drops, and they're making the most of being able to round and have their crews pack their kites whilst pointing up to get across the line there. But it's just so critical to come across this gap here, which is only about 150 metres. And really come across fast to ensure that you can gain any of those final last places there. There you go. Richie and Lisa have looks like they've snuck back in the fleet there, and a few boats have got through them there for the win. Throughout the fleet, you'll note that there is races within the race. So, despite the fact that there was a distinct front runner group, there's certainly still little cohorts of the fleet that are vying for first across the line, I guess, in their own little fleets. Here we've got Oz 794 making their way across. So this is one of the other new boats in the class, which has only recently finished in the last couple of months, and that's sailed by Kelvin Boyle and Amy Van Galen. And here we've got Oz 779. So this is Mark Laneson, who's coming across through to the finish line. Mark's a local and certainly would have made the most of these conditions, and he's also the Victorian class president. So Mark's been behind a lot of the fairs that you'll see on the water.